Want to know why some people are still reluctant to talk about NASA's mysterious past? Linked to a shocking reveal, NASA is in the minds of many a beacon of human achievement, a symbol of humanity's insatiable desire to explore or discover, but behind its glorious reputation lies a dark history wrapped in bad compromises, unanswered questions and decisions that few are willing to revisit. Behind the scenes of the moon landing, the discovery of satellites, and the fascination with space, an obscure history remains. Hidden from public view, a history shrouded in shadows, consequences, and a silence that continues to this day. 1950s, the end of the Cold War. The story begins in the post-World War II era, when tensions between the United States and the Soviet Union reached a fever pitch. The United States was in a desperate race for space. It was a new frontier of war and pride. When the Soviets launched Sputnik in 1957, there was shock throughout America. It was a strong warning. The United States acknowledged it was behind schedule, and recovery or backlog became a pressing issue. By every means necessary, pressure on scientists, engineers, and politicians was increasing. They knew they needed specialized knowledge, but the kind of knowledge they gained involved a terrifying determination. The US government began recruiting former Nazi scientists. This was the same group that secretly developed weapons and fireworks for Hitler's Germany. Operation Paperclip brought more than 1,600 German scientists to America. It closed out the darkest parts of the past to gain an edge in the space race. One of them was Dr. Werner von Braun, a visionary fire engineer with undeniable ingenuity, but complicity in Nazi atrocities was equally convincing. Apollo 1, the silent tragedy. As the 1960s progressed, NASA's needs increased and efforts to defeat the Soviets intensified. Sometimes security protocols were more stringent because the curve was reduced to run in the opposite direction or rhythm. The consequences of this pressure became tragically clear in 1967 when three astronauts, Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee, were selected to join the Apollo 1 mission. The best of America combined courage, hope, and national pride, but during pre-launch testing, tragedy occurred. There was a fire in the cabin. The fire came so suddenly and so violently that there was no time to escape. In his last days, the two astronauts' voices echoed in desperation over the radio. A flawed non-project. The environment of pure oxygen combined with biased breathing turns the capsule into a deadly tattoo. All three men died within minutes. NASA quietly buried Cachoeira, shutting down rumors of negligence to protect her image. Grissom's family, White and Chaffee, want answers. Meanwhile, NASA's response was muted. Make the organization move forward. He presents a picture of resilience and determination for those who work at NASA. The accident is a bitter reminder of the cost of human ambition. Some engineers and scientists were shocked by this death, but they were silent. They report that remaining silent could damage their careers. Then they buried it and moved on as NASA shone even brighter in the public eye. Environmental impact. Virtually no small towns left. It wasn't just astronauts and their families who suffered. In the 1960s and 1970s, there were bonfire testing sites in places like Huntsville, Alabama, and Cape Canaveral, a byproduct of the Florida Group's industry. For local communities and residents of these places began to have unusual health problems. Some children have severe respiratory symptoms. Some died without explanation, but no one talks about NASA's role in a small town as a venerable giant. It was an unthinkable challenge to them. Ruth Anderson, a single mother in Huntsville, was very sad when her youngest son Eric suffered from chronic asthma. The situation worsened as bonfire tests became more frequent. She wondered what it was that wasn't her son, so she contacted the local authorities, but she was seen as a hysterical mother and told her to stop bothering her. Alum understand this. What does Ruth's frustration turn to? But its attempts to find answers were continually thwarted. In the end, it succumbed exhausted and powerless to the influence of NASA, and its subjects disappeared in the silence. Shadows of history. So why is everyone talking about NASA's shady past? The reasons are more complex, and deliberate spaceflight is definitely a headache, and questioning NASA's ethics is unpatriotic. The organization represents hope, ambition, and the idea that the impossible can be achieved. This is a testament to the generosity of Americans. Therefore, any criticism, however, it was quickly rejected, and the effects were buried. As time passes, NASA's shady history disappeared, and those who knew the truth were silenced or refused to speak. The select few who used it to express concerns were ignored or fired from their professions. Former officials who spoke of von Braun's Nazi ties or concerns about the health of testing sites labeled as an intruder. The government keeps the record secret to defend NASA's heroic narrative. Legacy of light and shadow. Today, NASA is celebrating its conquest, but for those who are more observant of the history of Port A, it is not so easy, and one's legacy. Braun remains a painful sign of moral compromise. It was a reminder that enthusiasm and ambition do not eliminate responsibility. For Ruth Anderson, the Apollo 1 family, and for the small town affected by environmental impacts, NASA's work has a price that only they can afford. When we consider the stars dreaming of Mars and others, it is perhaps worth remembering that these conquests came at great cost. Behind every box is a human price, sacrifice made in the shadows. It's not silence and for many people it is not a problem. It's not over yet. History will remember these victories, but regressors know the true cost of ambition, and that's why there are still some people today who are willing to talk about shadows that are as editable as stars. Here are just a few glimpses of NASA's dark side. If you want to know more about Earth's hidden history, let's start with tanning and subscribe to our channel. Feel free to share with your friends so we can all pay attention to these things. Your support will encourage me to continue sharing those stories with you.